One Piece Chapter 967, another remarkable chapter in this truly incredible flashback where we're seeing like the most monumental events to ever happen within the history of the series take place. And now we've gotten more information than I think we've pretty much ever had on the ultimate goal of the story, and that is One Piece and Laugh Tale. So that's mainly just what I want to talk about in this video, like explaining what Laugh Tale truly is, without, fully understanding it 100%, because that will be, end game, end of series stuff. But first of all, I just want to touch on this intro panel that we got here between Buggy and Shanks arguing about the Arctic is colder, no, the Antarctic. This is actually like a callback to, I think, Chapter 19. Like when they're talking about it's the North Pole, it's the South Pole. Also, back in Chapter 19, we see Scopper, and he has like what appears to be two axes. We see the one axe, and then he's holding something else, so that could be the second axe. But still, crazy flashbacks to like I think over 20 years ago. So also, we're getting reveals about the road poneglyphs in this chapter as well, and we're kind of figuring out where they all are, or at least what it appears to be where they all are. So first of all, Big Mom did have one at this time, and he somehow stole it from her without having to fight her, which they were also capable of doing on Wano. Like, they just have this crazy ability to just get in there like ninjas or something and then get out. I mean, it's also really easy for them to find where the poneglyphs are because, Roger has the voice of all things, which we can assume better than like pretty much anyone. And then of course we know that the other one was on Zoe. So that's the three we have right now. And then it appears that the fourth one, which has been a mystery up until this point, might have been originally on Fishman Island, because now we're seeing that there's two poneglyphs down there. One, of course, is the apology from Joy Boy, which we saw in the Fishman Island arc, but then there's another one which appears to be a different color, and we could assume that that is the fourth one. Now, there was kind of like conflicting translations with this chapter, because we don't have the official one yet, which we're not going to get for another week, but originally it said that it was given to him by Whitebeard, but apparently that is not the case. And if we're, trying to pay attention as close as we can here, it appears that the fourth road poneglyph is in fact was originally in Fishman Island, because we see it on the left of the apology letter from Joy Boy. So I guess that's it. That's where they all were. One in Wano, one with Big Mom, which she got somehow, and then the one on Zoe, and then it was originally in Fishman Island. So why is it no longer in Fishman Island? Well, it could be two reasons. It could be Jinbei took it, which, I don't know, maybe that's a possibility, but I think it's more likely that, considering that we know that Whitebeard took over, like, Fishman Island's territory after this portion of the story, like during the Great Pirate Era, then maybe he took it and put it somewhere, which I think seems likely, because that also could line up with the mistranslation that we got, or allegedly the mistranslation that we got about him getting it from Whitebeard. So I assume that Whitebeard probably has something to do with the fourth poneglyph, and then the road poneglyph. So that means that maybe Marco or just the Whitebeard pirates in general, maybe they know where the fourth one is, and maybe that's why they're going to come back into the story, because we saw Marco at the beginning of Wano, in between the Reverie arc. So maybe he still has its significance, like a real importance to the story, because maybe he will be playing a part in locating the last one, or maybe, like I said, it's Jinbei possibly. Maybe that's maybe he knows the location of it, or it's just maybe he just was able to give Big Mom her original poneglyph. I mean, we do know that he gave her a poneglyph, right? I think that was revealed eventually, but I'm kind of confused by all of this, but I think that it's more likely that Whitebeard had something to do with this, the last road poneglyph. Some other little things to touch on real quick is that we see Odin return to Wano to drop off Toki because she's sick, and then we see the retainers there, and they definitely don't look the same how they looked before, like when they were in like their pristine retainer garbs. Now they're all like patched up and dirty and stuff. So they've definitely been having a difficult time at this point. And considering that we also see the factories are up, we can assume that Kaido is already invaded at this point, and things have been tipping into his favor, because I'm sure that they really can't compete with Kaido even at this point, because some time has passed since the Rocks crew, and he was already obviously super powerful at that time. And then also Odin says that, when he returns in 4 years, he's not going to have the same welcome. So things are going to get way worse at that point. And Odin's essentially going to already have the odds, or just the deck stacked against him at that point. We're seeing that Frankie had an opportunity to join the Roger Pirates, which is interesting, and that Pedro met Roger, and that's pretty cool. But then if we're going into another big reveal, it's that Buggy and Shanks, in fact, do not know about the One Piece, because we assumed that maybe they had originally gone to Laugh Tale with Roger in his final journey, but no. Conveniently, Buggy got sick, and the illness that he gets is actually a joke. This isn't the official translation about the you'll die if you go to that island disease, which is the very same thing that Usopp said a while back. I think around like Alabasta time, somewhere around there. But yeah, it remains to be seen what the official translation is on this. But it's also implied that Shanks stayed behind with Buggy. And he says that, we'll one day we'll sail there with our own ship. So maybe that could also be giving us some foreshadowing for what's going to happen in the future of the story. Like when Laugh Tale is revealed again, maybe Buggy and Shanks go there together. Something like that. Which, I hope so, because I always assumed that Shanks was going to die before the end of the series. I don't know, I just get that feeling. And I think a lot of people do too. But anyway, we're also seeing that the reveal of Roger being claimed as the king of the pirates, which is pretty cool. But then we come to the most significant portion of the chapter, one of the most significant portions of the series, and it's them actually arriving at Laugh Tale. And we're finding out the name of Laugh Tale was actually named by Roger, and it's because there's something funny there, and they all laughed about it. So when they came across the One Piece, apparently it moved them to just laughter, like earnest laughter. So what does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine. But more info that we're getting on Laugh Tale and the One Piece or whatever else is there. It's that they learned about the Void Century, which we assumed we already knew that. They learned about the meaning of the D name. And they learned about the ancient weapons, Pluton, Uranus, and Poseidon. And Odin found out about the connection of Wano to the world of the past, which, I guess he could have talked to Toki about that, but maybe, I think she was only 600 years before, and we're looking at like 900, 800 years into the past, so maybe she didn't exactly know what they were looking for. But also, we're seeing that Joy Boy, the guy that we found out in Fishman's Island, the guy who wrote the Apology Poneglyph, was apparently the original holder of One Piece. And that Roger says that he wished to have lived in the same time as Joy Boy, because apparently this guy was like a comedian or something. But this is super interesting, and I think this might go back to what we saw in the Reverie arc when Emu was looking at like that big hat. That was probably like Joy Boy's hat, I'm assuming. And that's where the significance of the straw hat probably originally comes from. And I assume that Joy Boy maybe was the first D or something like that. And then maybe what they're laughing about is possibly that they can't do anything. Like they found this treasure, but they can't really do anything with it because maybe they're just there too early. Because I think there's a reason why we're finding out that Roger is really interested in Poseidon, and that it's revealed that he's 10 years too soon to have any use of Poseidon. So I think that might tie into why he's laughing here, because maybe he needs Poseidon or just all of the weapons together in order to make use of One Piece or something else like that. Or maybe whatever info he's getting here, it's just revealed that he's just too soon. Because Rayleigh says, like, when you come across the One Piece, you may come to a different conclusion than us. So I think that might mean that maybe they're arriving there at the right time. Possibly. Because also Whitebeard says that to Blackbeard that you're not the guy that Roger was waiting for. So I think this is all tying together, and maybe it ultimately means that whatever One Piece is going to like save the world possibly, but you need like all of the right things at the right time in order to make it work. Like I ultimately assumed that the Red Line is probably going to be destroyed, and then that's going to unite all of the oceans and something like that, and then that will grant everybody's wish one way or another, like including Sanji and Robin and everyone else. I mean, I'm going to make a whole video dedicated to this where I think the series is headed in the end, but I think that's pretty much what this is all, the joke is about. Like, Roger went through all of this trouble, dedicated all of his life, and then finally got to the pinnacle of this world, essentially, and then realized that there's nothing that he can really do with it. And maybe he's also laughing at the truth of the Void Century, which I think we all kind of figured out, is that it just ultimately means that the world government and the celestial dragons are just evil, and they essentially probably committed genocide back in the day so that they could ultimately have the world power, and wiped out all of the people that like belonged to the D or whoever Joy Boy's people were. And then that's why they wanted to erase that from history, because it would reveal that they're all in fact like evil, crazy, like Hitler-esque people. And then that also explains like the will of D. Like, the D is to pass down a legacy for people to overcome the celestial dragons, to overthrow the dictatorship that they've established in this world for the past better part of 1,000 years. So I guess that's what this all ultimately means. Probably, I'm obviously off on a lot, but I think this more or less is probably where things are headed. But wow, what an amazing chapter. But let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, please. And if you liked it, give it a like as well. And yeah, I also have a Patreon, gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well.